Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another very interesting figure, and in fact it's the only other figure in this line, to my knowledge anyway, unless, there's another one that I've never heard of, but we have the Dinosaurs in the Wild Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now, we recently had taken a look at the Dakota Raptor, which was requested for review. In that review, in the comments section, I had actually quite a few, I think, requests, and I also had some people message me and request this one and ask me to review the Tyrannosaurus from the Dinosaurs in the Wild series as well. And I will say I actually am a pretty big fan of this figure, even though it has, the same kind of limited articulation and everything as the Dakota Raptor. It is a very interesting and very cool looking version of a feathered Tyrannosaurus, one that, I feel like really stands out in the hordes of Tyrannosaur figures out there. When it comes to one of the more unique looking takes on a Tyrannosaurus, this has got to be very high up on anybody who actually may have this figure's list. But the only problem with this one, outside of the fact that, again, just like with the other, the articulation is a bit limited, is the fact that it cannot stand for me. It doesn't stand at all. So as you can see, I have a stand here holding it up currently. Again, if I remove that stand, the legs will just buckle and the figure will fall flat on its face. So unfortunately, the articulation in the legs is pretty loose. It doesn't hold the figure up well. Kind of reminds me of like the older Beasts of the Mesozoic Raptor series releases, as well as the Resaurus figures, where if you happen to have any of those, you'll know what I'm talking about when it comes to the legs kind of crumbling with the articulation. Same thing for this one. But again, very cool looking, so let's jump straight to a closer look and we'll check it out from there. So starting up here in the head sculpt of our Tyrannosaurus, you can see it looks okay when it comes to the fine detail and stuff. It's obviously not the most up-to-date interpretation of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but for its time it was actually a really nicely sculpted figure, and you can see that the skin texture looks pretty good. You have a good bit of variation to the skin texture when it comes to the appearance, finer skin texture in certain areas, and then like as you lead back here, you can see the scales get a little bit larger, not exactly large, but a little bit bigger. Same deal for the lower jaw. You also have some decent looking paintwork, as we have kind of like a maroonish sort of tone for the primary body color of the skin, but you can also see that we have like some darker tones applied. Kind of looks like maybe a wash has been applied, and then there's also just generally like some black added here and there. You can see the nostrils sculpted out right there. The eyes are a little sloppy. You can definitely see that. We've got like a yellow and then a black pupil and then a white spot, which is extraordinarily large to insinuate eye shine. The eyes on the Dakota Raptor, I think, were a little sloppy too, so the paintwork of these figures is never really, incredible if you ask me. Of course, as we had with the Dakota Raptor, whoa, almost lost it, but we have an articulated jaw. Now you can see that's about it. That's as far open as it goes. That's as close to closed as it goes. So you cannot close the mouth of the T-Rex at all, and again, that's about as far open as you can get it. As you lead into the mouth, you can see the teeth are sculpted pretty nicely. You can see they are painted with a white. There's also a purplish tone of color for the inside of the mouth. You can see the tongue right there. I actually kind of like the way that the tongue is painted, where we have it like a darker purple kind of leading down the center and then a lighter purple out around it. I honestly don't think I've ever seen anybody do that before, so it's pretty cool. You can see the darker purplish tone on the inside of the mouth, on the inside, on the lower jaw, and then again you can see pretty much the same thing going on in the inside of the mouth on the upper jaw as well. And the teeth look pretty decent overall, no matter where you look. It looks like maybe a few of the teeth in the lower jaw of mine might have been broken off. Again, this figure is a used figure. It's not something that you can get new anymore, so you're kind of limited when it comes to acquiring one in perfect shape. Obviously, mine is not in perfect shape. The eyes, again, are sloppily painted over here, but look a little bit better, I think, than what we saw on the first side. As you move back, you can see the ears right there, and then you can also see, of course, that we get some feathering picking up. Now, the feathering isn't perfectly painted because you can see that maroonish tone does kind of run here in this area where the feathers do initially pick up. but they have applied the black paint pretty quickly onto the figure, and again, you have such a big bulkiness to the throat. Almost reminds you of like a Lost World male Tyrannosaurus when it comes to the bulkiness of the throat, but you can see that those feathers are everywhere, almost giving it the effect of like having like a mane, similar to like you would see with like a lion. It almost makes it look like that when it comes to this version of the T-Rex, and I think this area specifically is one of the most unique looking areas of this T-Rex, and one of the areas why I think this one stands out so much. But when you look at the feather detail nice and close, it's not half bad. You know, it's definitely got that kind of emu-like look where it's just sort of shaggy feathering that kind of runs along the back of the dinosaur, overtakes the entire neck and throat, but then it kind of disappears and then follows along the back of our T-Rex. And then as you move down, you can see that we have the skin texture return in like the shoulder area leading back into the stomach and stuff. We also have some of the black kind of running down and striping into the stomach of the T-Rex, and you can see the arms as well sport that blackish tone. And then as you lead down, you can see the muscle definition in the arms. You can also see the nails are sculpted pretty nicely. They have kind of a genuine sharp look to them, similar to the Dakota Raptor. We also have two tones of color for the nails, as we start out with a gray and then transition very abruptly, but we transition to a white for the tips. And we also have arm articulation, but as you can see, very, very limited. You don't have a whole lot of mobility for those arms. Same deal for the opposing arm. So the articulation, as I said, not so great on this figure. Moving back here into the stomach, though, you can see the skin texture does continue to look really quite nice. You see more of that skin texture as we lead into the thigh. Again, the feathers kind of continue to decrease as you move out here. You can now see there's even less feathers once you reach the hip region and stuff. And then as you move down, the muscle definition is very obvious here in the thigh. Again, we have a mixture of the maroon and black tones moving down. Then the black pretty much overtakes the leg as you have the knee right here. You have a big bulging calf muscle, and then you lead down into the foot sculpt. And I think the foot sculpt looks pretty nice. Again, you kind of have like a scoot-like appearance running down the toes. Definitely a bird-like appearance for the foot of the dinosaur. And the nails, again, look really good. Again, you can even see like cracks and crevices within the nails. And the same style of paintwork, again, with that like grayish tone and then the white tips, which is still very interesting, but whatever. I mean, it's not the greatest paint job for the nails, but it looks okay. And you can see the dew claws as well are painted. As you move back up, you can get an idea as far as what the articulation of the legs is like. You can see we do have leg articulation. You can kind of go forward a little bit and then go back a little bit. It's probably one of the better areas of the articulation on this figure, but still not great. And then you also have areas of articulation down here in the ankle. So you can get two areas of articulation down here, just giving you a little bit more posability with the figure. I also want to state that there's like an injury that they sculpted into the Rex right there, which I didn't mention just a moment ago. I love little things like that. But then as you lead back here into the tail, you can see kind of like a striping effect with that black. You can also see some wrinkling increasing to the skin right there. And then you lead out and we transition to a black for the entire rest of the tail, which does curve downward. Kind of a decent looking tail, not the best curve in the world. It's a little bit awkward, I think, but it's still okay. You can see the feathers as well taper away as you lead into the tail. And we do have one more articulated joint right here, which can basically take the tail left and right, and that's really about it. It's kind of a not so great area of articulation. It's just a little ugly, I think, but I mean, it's articulation nonetheless. And then as you lead along the underside, you can see we have that black tone following along until you reach in the groin area, and then we return back to a mixture of that maroon and black. And now if you turn the figure around, you're really not going to see much of anything different on this side compared to the initial side, because of course this is a fully posable, or well, not fully posable, but it is a posable articulated figure. It comes in kind of a neutral position, so it's up to you to kind of pose it and display it. So nothing really different going on this side compared to the initial side. But again, it is still a really cool looking figure, even if the articulation is very limited. It's definitely a striking looking Tyrannosaurus. As far as the size goes, it is actually quite nicely sized, and the same goes for almost any figure that would have articulated leg joints. The height can be changed depending on how high up you position it, but in the spot that it's in currently, about 6 3/4 inches, or a little over 17 centimeters. And then when it comes to a length, you are looking at from the tip of the tail to the snout, a little over 17.5 inches, or around 44.5, approaching 45 centimeters, but not quite there For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus Robert Muldoon in the Collect Day human being next to our Dinosaurs in the Wild Tyrannosaurus, and you can see the Rex is quite large, definitely has a very good size and easily dwarfs the Papo T-Rex. Then when it comes to a few more Mattel comparisons, we have a Dilophosaurus and Velociraptor stepping in next to our Rex. For a few more randoms, we also have the Schleich Diabloceratops, Safari LTDU Tyrannus, and Collect Day Deluxe Dimetrodon. I also wanted to give you guys a comparison with the Dinosaurs in the Wild Dakota Raptor next to the T-Rex. You can see the Rex is a bit larger than our Dakota Raptor, which is to be expected, but obviously you can also see these figures don't scale correctly with each other. Then when it comes to a Tyrannosaurus comparison, we have the Mojo Fun version of the T-Rex next to our Dinosaurs in the Wild version, obviously a pretty drastic difference in size. We've also got another T-Rex with some balancing issues, as we have the Tyrannosaurus Rex from PNSO Wilson here next to our Dinosaurs in the Wild version, which yet again dwarfs the Wilson Tyrannosaurus. And then for one final comparison, when it comes to a Tyrannosaurus, I broke out one of the big guns as we have the Rebor Tyrannosaurus Rex next to the Dinosaurs in the Wild version, and you can see even the Rebor Rex is a little bit smaller than we see for this Dinosaurs in the Wild version. So this Dinosaurs in the Wild Tyrannosaurus Rex is, you know, again, a mixed bag when it comes to this figure. You have some really cool aspects of it, like the appearance is insanely striking. When it comes to a Tyrannosaurus Rex, it is probably one of the most striking Tyrannosaurs I've ever seen. And it's also probably, if you know of this figure, it's one of the most recognizable. You know, if you see this figure, even at a glance, it's such a standout that you'll instantly realize what figure it is because of how unique and different it looks. So Dinosaurs in the Wild did a great job of creating the type of Tyrannosaurus that is very memorable and will stick in your mind because it has, again, that very cool mane and unique look to it. But they also have given it some very nice paint apps. I think the coloration looks extremely natural and overall pretty smooth as far as the application goes. Some sloppiness here and there, like with the eyes, the nails, and stuff like that. But overall, I feel like the paint scheme and even the application of the paint on most of the body is really nicely done and looks very natural and definitely could be the colors I could imagine a Tyrannosaurus being. The feathering as well, again, is something that we now think Tyrannosaurus didn't have, but in this instance we have like a mixture of scales and feathers, so you know, maybe, who knows, but it looks really cool. Definitely, again, a unique looking feathered T-Rex. The only thing that in my opinion is a downside outside of some of the paintwork being a little sloppy is the articulation being so limited. It had so much potential when it comes to having articulation like this. It really could have created some pretty cool posability and diorama options for a Rex that looks so neat, but the articulation is extremely limited, and again, you can't even close the mouth or anything, and then once I remove that stand, it would fall flat on its face, the legs would just buckle. It is a pretty heavy figure. It does have some significant weight to it, and that's probably why the legs buckle so easily. But overall, again, if they had just improved the articulation, I feel like this would have been an extremely cool figure. Unfortunately, it does suffer from the articulation being so limited. But overall, it is still a really cool figure and definitely a fun one to add to any collection. Unfortunately, it is a figure that is also long discontinued, so it's a little bit hard to get a hold of. The best place I would say is to go on eBay and look for it, because that's where I found mine. So I will try to find a link to add in the description to add to eBay again, where you can pick one up for the cheapest price I can find. But otherwise, again, let me know in the comment section what you guys think of it, and of course, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.